Well, we're back, a final podcast for 2021. This is the Doig edition of the Old Bull Young Buck podcast. My name's David Mundy, and with me is my little co-host, the man I've missed most since the end of the season, Griff and Logue, mate. Looking quite dapper there.
Hey man, thank you very much, Dave, and well done again on the beautiful intro, and thanks for having me back here.
Thanks, mate. Could you talk us through your get-up for the Doig edition?
Yeah, quick little
podcast.
Doig edition one. I've got the club suit, a nice old dirty white shirt, and Nat Pfeiffer's supplied me with this tie from I stole it out of his wardrobe in my second year, so yet to return it. And I've got a nice pair of boardies on, the cargo pants, so
yeah, nice work.
It's good to be here, mate. You look nice. You look real good.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I've dusted off the black Brownlow suit, but You've been talking up your double wins a game for a few days now, leading into this podcast, and you've done really well. Yeah,
obviously for those unaware, which would be plenty of listeners that wouldn't know what it is, but a double wins a tie. Nicest tie in the game. That's probably the one thing I got out of going to private school. So the old man taught me day before my first day at school in year 8. So thanks Uncle Mick for that one.
Yeah, cheers Mick.
He's
You've
a good
done
man.
well.
So what have you been up to, mate? Off season so far. It's all right?
Yeah, it's going well. I think we've both been up to Broome.
Yep.
Both got a respective tan in Broome, and had a good time. You enjoy your time up there?
Yeah, I just marinated in the sun for a couple of days, and I don't really see off season as much of a break. It's more just a mental break for me, mate. But physically, you still got to get in and do the hard yards. So I don't know what you do in your old age, but I'm always, striving for greatness.
Yeah, and it's great to see, mate.
Yeah.
Bit to go, but we'll get there.
Yeah, Broome was nice though, wasn't it?
It was great, yeah. It was
big shout out to Broome. Cable Beach Club. Unbelievable.
very nice.
I loved it.
Nice place to defrost after a pretty chilly winter in Perth.
It was a cold winter, lots of rain, so...
do you want to set the scene of where we're filming today's pod?
Yep, this is Crown Towers for anyone that can see around. You've got Optus, a nice bridge there. Bit of the river, but we're upstairs in the Crystal Club. So, really nice kind of part of Australia. So we copped a bit of a whacking the last week or so with the grand final. So held up well.
It's been very busy. Yeah, been very busy around here. And I think this is where today's guest for our podcast has spent a lot of his time up in the Crystal Club at Optus.
Yeah, no lower than the Crystal Club. So it's pretty nice. Once again, thanks again, Crown, for having us here. They've been very nice to a lot of our players along the journey. I think you need 10,000 followers or more to get kind of your promotions and free rooms. So none of us have made that yet. So that's all right. We'll just keep doing our shout outs. But anyway, aside from that, probably our most famous guest to come on so far, and a man that's been pestering us along the years and almost came across a bit desperate to kind of jump on, which is understandable. But anyway, without further ado, JL, welcome, mate. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Griff. Yeah,
welcome, mate.
I was desperate, wasn't I?
Oh, it's fine. It's just you're just human, mate. It's fine. It's a big thing to be a part of, and hey, you made it, mate. You made it.
Very grateful for the opportunity, mate.
I think the one that hurt him the most is we invited Swaggy on before Big JL. I think that one hurt him the most.
I reckon that one would hurt. Or Pav. Pav jumped on way before, so.
Yeah. Now, I need to start this, but before we launch in, we have to address the elephant in the room. It's come up during the year, and I think this needs to be resolved between you two because there's some tension building behind the scenes, I feel. On the podcast earlier this year.
Which one, mate? There's plenty of tension.
You wanted to clarify that a
come to
bit.
blows a lot, mate, so yeah.
Well, there was a bit of controversy with some of the statements that you were slinging at our senior coach earlier in the year, in particular his coffee habits.
Yeah.
So let's just get to the root cause of the coffee habits, I guess. JL, when did the Nescafe dependency start?
Yeah, well, it became probably a staple of my diet at Ag College. I went to Cunningham Ag College for a couple of years, and they didn't have any of these special flash coffee machines or a barista.
Any special blends out there?
No, so got on the Nescafe Blend 43, mixed it up a little bit. Like I used to start with 2 sugars and milk, and now I'm just down to black, no sugars. So just love the consistency.
And how many in a typical working day at the club, how many would you consume?
Well, it's the first thing I have when I get out of bed. Usually start with one there, one on the drive to work, and then maybe a couple more at work, depending on the day. Sometimes after a bad loss, we might sneak another couple in. But yeah, around four before lunch.
And so how far
before lunch? It's a fair bit.
So how far down your food and beverage pyramid is it now? Is it like a staple down the bottom?
Yeah, it's a staple. I miss it when I don't have it. Yeah, there's a bit of a craving there.
And so after Griff absolutely slayed you on our podcast, we're up in the Gold Coast, and do you want to tell us a story about how you brought it up in the team meeting?
Yeah, well, it didn't really come off that well, did it?
It worked in my favour even more because it was just poor exexecution.
Yeah,
shout out Elliot again. Probably
good execution. The IT let me down, which happens a little bit.
Elliot never my fault. Copped it a lot this year, didn't he?
No, never my fault. But it was that time. Even when I feel like I made a mistake, I didn't make a mistake. I actually just got a little bit of stage fright when he started glaring at me, the big Griff bloke. He gets a bit angry sometimes, and he just looks straight at you, and I got a little bit.
I was stepping on eggshells for a bit leading into the game because Joe was kind of looking around, just going, "Shouldn't have said that, mate. Shouldn't have said that," kind of. But no, I still stick to my words, mate. And I really just don't know how people drink that stuff.
We actually had a goal kicking comp at training, and I won, and the loser had to drink a cup of Nescafe, so still got that up my sleeve. I was going to bring it today, but wasn't organised enough.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm sure we can organise an Nescafe before we leave here today. I'm sure that's no worries.
Yeah, sure. I'll be there. Yeah, let's do it. Sounds good. Anyway,
sorry, no. Before we move on, have you ever had a Nescafe or a?
No,
Never.
No. From honestly a young age, I reckon I had my first coffee. I would have been just coming into high school, year 8, and the old man's got a nice coffee machine at home and slowly upgraded over the years. But it's always been a barista-made kind of barista job, yeah.
Right.
Barista coffee, double Windsor knots. Yeah. It's just seeing a different side of Griff. I didn't realise he was school boys. Yeah, I thought he was a
finer things in life, mate. Yeah, that was up in Kidgikanup as well, so you've got no excuse up in Quarter not to find. Sorry, Cunderden Ag didn't have any fancy coffee machines, mate. You find a way. When there's a will, there's a way. So here I am with me double Windsor and flat whites. Anyway, as we are here, we can see Optus, and it was a massive week of Perth. The Brownlow, obviously, how that went out. The grand final. You boys were at the Brownlow. How was that?
Yeah, it was nice. It was a little bit different this year being at Perth, but how did you enjoy it, Joe?
I found it a really efficient night. And, there's so many Perth people there. It just was good company and caught up with a lot of people that you haven't really caught up with as much as you'd like throughout the season. So, yeah, it was the count went really well. Our mate here got some good votes. He would have told you by now he got 20.
Highest in the career, 36 years old. It's pretty
worthy winner. And, it's a midfield game at the moment, and the midfielders all polled really, really well.
Was that your pick, you think?
Well,
around, or?
I just thought Ollie Wines was probably Port's best player throughout the year, and there wasn't that many players that were going to steal votes off him. Whereas, Tracker, Oliver Gawn got a lot of votes, and the Dogs were a bit the same. So, in hindsight, he was my pick.
Yeah. I think I can kind of, I feel the same as the Melbourne boys. I feel like Dave probably stole a few off me leading into it as well. Yeah. So, I feel for you, Petrarca. It would have been tough. So,
have you managed a Brownlow vote yet?
Not yet, mate. Growth mindset though, not yet. Always say yet because probably I reckon on the 2 times that I featured on the Brownlow Vision was Taylor Walker taking nearly Mark of the Year on me, and then Buddy Franklin kicking 6. So reverse Coleman and reverse Mark of the Year. Any publicity is good publicity, so can't be happy with it. And then the GF as well, obviously just recently. Well done, Melbourne. Pretty deserving winners. That's the first grand final I've been to. I loved it. Really enjoyed it. So I reckon it was a good game. Did you think Melbourne were going to take it, or was it kind of a flip of the coin?
I thought it was a flip of the coin. Yeah. I tipped Melbourne by a goal all throughout the week, and it was an interesting game. The Western Bulldogs, I thought halfway through the third quarter, if they kicked one more goal, they're a chance to run away with it. But Melbourne just clicked the fingers and got into action. And, geez, at back end of that third quarter, they were just dominant. And then the last quarter, when a team sort of gets beaten, you can get a bit of a run on, and when there's nothing to play for, and the other team's got everything to play for, and geez, the scoreline was a blowout in the end, but didn't feel the game was
74. Is that what it ended up being?
Something like that, yeah.
It's outrageous for how long it kind of stretched out to be even at half time. Kind of just went away from it a bit. But great spectacle at Optus, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was magnificent.
It was all time. Obviously, had the dress rehearsals through the year for the prelim and stuff, having it there. But the show that they put on was 61,000 people, and I reckon it was awesome. Light show, everything, performance, entertainers. Well done. Should it always be in Perth, or should we keep it, claim it?
Oh, I don't think it'll always be in Perth, but I was going to ask JL if he's been on the phone to Gil yet to encourage him to start moving it around, see if they can wiggle their way out of the MCG.
Well, I don't have that type of pull. I don't have Gil's phone number, to be honest. But yeah, I think the last 2 years in particular has shown that if we can spread the grand final around, it's going to be good for the game and going to build the game. I was lucky enough to be at something that Gil spoke at during the week, and he said that the lasting effect is still really strong from having the grand final in Brisbane. The ratings and all that were through the roof in Brisbane this year on the back of having the grand final there last year. So anytime you can get that growth in the game is a good thing. So I'm all for shifting it around. Maybe 1 in every 4 would be a good ratio, given that we've got a long contract at the MCG. And we're just really fortunate as a state to have such a great stadium, such great hotels like this one. Feel really special that we're able to have that week that we've had last week.
Olympic style move, I like it. Now, before we move on again, can I just circle back to the Brownlow and career votes?
Back to the Brownlow, yeah.
We touched on Griff here to poll a vote, but
the donut so
there's
far.
one in your future somewhere, mate, I'm sure.
Should have deserved a couple.
JL, are you aware of what you finished your playing career on?
No.
We've done some research
No,
and
I
we've found them all.
Definitely didn't count my Brownlow votes. I wouldn't imagine there been too many.
There were 15.
15
career votes, and in those 15 there were 3 best on, three vote games. Any guesses, inklings as to any of those?
No. I know I kicked 6 in the second half against Hawthorn one day at Etihad. That was our first win in 2001. And I reckon I polled 2 that day because Bally had about 60 possessions and maybe hit the scoreboard as well. But other than that, I've got no idea.
6 in the whole second half?
Yeah. Quite first half. Thought
Who were you playing on?
Do you remember? When you kick 6, you probably get a few coming through. You might try and stop you, but Jonathan
Buddy,
Hay.
he only had one.
I'm not sure, mate.
Too quick.
I'll go through them really quickly. 2003 versus the Demons, 6 goals. Remember?
Yep, I remember that as MCG. Yep,
dominant.
Yep, they're all in the second half as well, I think.
2006, round 18 against Hawthorn, 15 touches, 4 goals. Remember that game?
No.
I think I gave you one of those.
Yeah, I probably set them all up, did you? Probably robbed you a couple of votes, did I?
I think I got 2 that day. 2005, round 2 versus St Kilda, 25 touches and 1 goal.
Yep,
Surely
I remember that.
round.
We lost by a point. Yeah, lost by a point, I think. That was down in Tassie at Launceston. I think I was in the ruck that day. Yeah. Definitely wasn't full forward getting that many possessions.
So 6 goals, yeah. I wouldn't mind swinging to a bit of a hypothetical. We had a bit of fan mail sent in. This one was from Tom Sheridan. He goes, hypothetically, if you were to play on, let's say, an undersized, you would say undersized key back who's very athletic, quite tan, rowing background. Back in your prime, what year was your prime? What do you reckon? 2003?
Yeah,
that's probably around there. So you're in your prime. This bloke's just coming through the ranks. Hypothetically, how many do you reckon you're going to kick on him?
Well, Buddy got 6 on him. Maybe 8.
Stats.
Nah. Mate, are you
2 more than the best forward of all time?
No, mate. It's a very good hypothetical question that
keep going on the record.
Tommy sent in. No, mate, I reckon I probably wouldn't touch it. Someone that athletic, that good with their body use, that powerful, it'd be hard to get a kick on him.
Oh, hang on, break this up.
There you go. Shannon Hearn. We'll be able to lock down Justin easily. Beautiful. All right, we'll move on. So you did grow up in Quarter. We touched a little bit on Quarter. No, we haven't yet. Less than 300 people in the town, maybe even less, or
less.
It's about that. Yeah.
Yep. So
200 k's east of Perth. How was life on the farm, mate? It's all right.
I grew up in a lot of isolation, I'd say. Like, I say we're from Quarter because no one's heard of Quarter really, but no one's really heard of where I went to school. I went to school in a place called Gabon, which is in between Quarter and Bencubbin. When I was at school in Gabon, there were 16 kids in the school, and I was the only year 6 or 7 coming through. So I had to con some of the younger kids at lunchtime to play cricket and footy, and it was good having not a heap of kids in the school because, when you don't have to compete against anyone, you can become sports champion pretty easily.
Top 20 football player at the whole school. Well done.
Yeah, and our farm was 45 k's north of Quarter, so we're a fair way out of town.
Yeah, right.
So we'd only go to town maybe twice a week, once for footy training and once to play.
Yeah.
And footy was always a big part of growing up in the country. It brings the community together. It's not only you play it for sport and fitness and friends and that sort of thing, but it actually drew the community together once a week. And it was a big part of our childhood.
Clearly, it was a big part from a young age as well, because in 1998, the year I was born, just to put that on the record, you were taken in the draft at pick 2. Is that always kind of going to be? Did you know it was going to be high? Because that's a pretty high pick 2. It's
probably the second highest pick. Yeah.
Close enough, yeah. Taking a few, yeah.
No. Even though footy was a big part of my childhood, it wasn't my number one passion as a kid. I always was really passionate about being a farm boy.
And coffee drinker.
Yeah, that probably came along a little bit after. Yeah. But Dad always gave me a lot of responsibility as a kid. So I was driving heavy machinery on the farm, 10, 11, 12 years of age, driving the tractor at seeding time and harvester at harvest time. Yeah, so farming was a big passion. That's why I went to Cundon Ag College. I always thought I was going to go back to the country. At the end of year 11, West Perth asked me down to do a pre-season at West Perth Colts. They were really good to me. They allowed me just to travel down on the weekends and play, and had a really good year and won the best and fairest there, and was lucky enough to get picked in the under-18s and had a pretty good carnival.
Yep.
And from the start of year 12 was going to be a farmer to the end of year 12 I got drafted at pick 2 and became a professional athlete.
Yeah, right.
Who was pick 1 that year?
Des Headland. Who obviously got drafted to Brisbane, number 1. And then, after 3 or 4 years, he came home and played for us.
Who else got drafted to Fremantle that year alongside you?
Andrew Shipp got drafted.
Shippy.
Ash Clancy as a rookie pick. Daniel Shell got drafted that year. Yeah, to name a few.
Nice.
So 139 games, ended up squeezing out, and 166 goals. It's bit over a goal a game, so that's pretty good areas. Were you always a goal kicker, or because you're obviously pretty tall, especially back in the old days, 98, would have been passed as a ruckman as well. So
yeah,
do you have a choice? You have a
preference?
Yeah,
probably ruck.
Yeah,
I mean, just a bit like a midfielder these days. You get to run around and hunt the footy, and as a ruckman, you're always involved in the game. Like, every time it goes out of bounds, you become the first person to try and touch it again, even though I didn't do that all the time. Not long after I got drafted, Aaron Sandlands came along, and clearly one of the best ruckmen of all time, really, especially at stoppages. So he pushed me down to the forward line. Yeah,
probably a fair bloke to push down.
Couldn't really push him out of the ruck.
Nah. And still filthy about it. In your 139 games, who were 2 or 3 of your favourite teammates outside of myself to play with?
Troy Cook. He was one of the best players to play with. So selfless, so consistent and hard at it, and such a hard worker off the field. And he's one player that would be able to walk away from their AFL career knowing that they got the best out of himself. Dale Kickett was my favourite player. Played with him at the start for a few years. Just similar, or you just knew what you're going to get from Dale every time he went out in the oval. He just was hard at it. And just gave everything every game.
Obviously, a few challenges along the way as well. Knee injuries kind of got the better of you towards the end of the year. What was it like? We know what the rehab program and stuff are like now. The structures, the support behind it are really, really strong. Obviously, did you go through a few challenges, kind of mentally, physically, obviously throughout your career? And
yeah, absolutely. I feel for players that are in rehab because it does wear you down. And I think the biggest thing I probably had trouble with was that I'd never trained. So in 2006, I did 2 main sessions for the year, but played most games. And going out there underprepared every week was a real challenge.
Yep.
And when you do that, your consistency isn't where you want it to be. So, yeah, after I'd finished playing, it wasn't really physically. I was banged up with my knee, but I was probably more mental relief than anything. Because it does wear you down.
And during those times playing, you donned the long sleeves quite often. Was that because you hated gym work, or was there a preference behind that?
Yeah, skinny arms to cover them up. To be honest, I just felt a lot more comfortable in a long sleeve. That's where it's at. Yeah,
Couldn't be that much more comfy, could you? Get a bit more rubbing, less.
just roll the sleeves up.
Yeah.
3/4 arm length.
Rory Lobb.
Found it a little bit more comfy.
Rory Lobb does that, the 3/4. I think that's what he had at the Giants. So
Yeah, where do you think he learned it?
great minds think alike, eh? Great minds think alike. You played alongside Dave in your playing days. Any good stories of that, or
No, not really. Not good ones.
no?
I just remember when Dave came onto the scene. He was a half-backer at that stage. The same attributes as he's got now. He just was really
Old.
Really, no, well, he wasn't. That was the only attribute he's grown into.
Right.
Great kick, but great evasiveness, and can read the game, a step ahead of everyone else. So it's held him in pretty good stead. I would have thought.
Yeah.
Griff.
Got to play with your brother Troy as well. What was that like?
It was great. Obviously, did a lot together growing up out in the farm. He was so passionate about football and sport growing up. Him and my passions didn't really align. He was a lot more passionate about footy than what he was about farming. But he taught me a lot about footy, and he drove me probably pretty much early on to just have a kick and play games in the backyard. To be able to do that at AFL level was great.
It's incredible. I find it incredible how out of the same family you can get a big lumbering ruckman and a beautiful silky left footer.
Lumbering.
Lumbering's good. I like that.
Different genes.
All right, we'll move on to my section called Quick Hands. And as you're an avid listener and a huge fan of our podcast, I'm sure you're aware, but I'll fire out some quick questions or some quick answers. Last time you called your mum?
A long time ago. I usually call my dad, and then my mum answers my dad's phone because he can't answer it. So, I call my dad more than my mum, knowing that I'll talk to my mum.
Okay. Last meal on earth, what would it be?
Lamb chops.
Weirdest unit at the club?
Tabs.
Why the number 20 Guernsey in your playing days?
Just because I got handed it.
Happy that Tabs is wearing it now?
Yep. 2 similar rigs.
Team you barracked for as a kid?
Geelong.
Favourite movie?
Not a movie buff at all. Shawshank Redemption. I can't even remember how it goes, but everyone else says it.
You look like the main guy. So
It's not a popularity contest, Jesus. Most used emoji?
Thumbs up.
Favourite Geelong player growing up?
Kenny Hinkley.
First car?
Combine harvester.
VX station wagon.
Your current whip?
Toyota Land Cruiser.
Oh, V8.
Where did you used to sit in team meetings when you were playing?
Front row. Coach always looks over the front row to ask questions. Untold secret.
Your favourite current player at Freo? Controversial.
There's too many to choose from.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
What was the time trial of choice back in your days?
We did a 4K time trial.
Best result?
4Ks, I think it was 15:30.
Where did that rank you?
Not last, but
Not first.
yeah, no, closer to probably the back than the front.
Best dressed coach at the club?
Josh Carr. He's got this khaki kit that he wears regularly. Just he blends in a little bit with it. But,
And worst dressed?
Boydie.
We talked about your favourite players at the club. So why do you love Andy and Sturdy so much?
Andy and Sturdy.
Sturdy's probably the one that always stands out for me. I love how one time he said we like to score. So
Yeah. He's an offensive. He loves his offense. Sturdy. He loves kicking a goal. And the thing that, not sure where you're going with this. Is something a little bit deeper, but Sturdy,
really.
I like Sturdy's passion for the game.
Yeah.
Even when he's been injured this year, he's asked to sit in match committee a couple of times and sit in our strategy meetings. And when he went back to Melbourne, he went and watched a couple of games and did some opposition analysis for us. And he's got a real passion for the way the game's played, which I admire.
Love the forwards.
He's relatively new to the game as well, Steady, isn't he? He only picked it up late into his teens, so a bit to work with there, I reckon.
Another one of fan mail we had, just speaking on forwards. Hi, Justin. Why don't you put Griff and Logan in the forward line?
Yeah, was that
one.
Who wrote that? Mr.
Tommy
Logan or
Sheridan.
Mrs.
Sheridan again.
Well, mate, like at the moment, you know how many backline players we've lost throughout the years. We haven't had
Not
many
many of us
out there.
left.
They're a fragile bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, fragile bunch down there, so I can't afford to lose another one.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'll send that back to him. Yeah, I'll let him know. So just a bit of a year review now. Season highlight, mate. You have any favourite moments of the year? Stick to one, if there were any. You can say pass.
Probably the Derby. Yeah. Or the Richmond game. Both of those games were really strong.
Dave, you?
Yeah, I was going to say the Derby as well. Obviously, the game was great, but I was able to celebrate that equaling of Pab's record and have Sal and my kids run out with me onto the ground, which was really special. So I was going to say that as well. What about yourself?
Probably you breaking the games record for Pav. I reckon that was something that, will be spoken about for a long time, many years, until, I don't know, it couldn't
Do you think it'll ever get broken?
Never know. Growing technology, people might be able to play for a long time, but I just don't think so. It's too, nah. Andy Bradshaw's probably on his way, but even then, nah. Nowhere near, sorry. The big fella's still got a couple of years left in him, so...
Thanks, mate. We're not done yet.
It's a long, rating of the season, mate. 2 or things you were most happy with, and then maybe the few focus areas we're going to heading into the season with.
I was happy with the growth of some of our younger players. Some of our better footy was really strong. I just think, the lack of consistency was disappointing and something for us to really focus on over the pre-season. 4 or 5 of our best wins were followed by probably 4 or 5 of our worst results. So that consistency to be able to embrace the grind week in, week out is something that we need to build on. I was really pleased with how we fought out some of those close wins. Collingwood, Sydney, Richmond, West Coast, we got challenged late in all those games and we were able to really knuckle down and be really strong in the contest and be really strong defensively. Clearly we need to get injuries right. We need to have our best team out there more often, so that's something we'll work on hard over the pre-season. And I think our offense just not good enough at the moment and dropped away badly with our midfield connection late in the year, but just our ability to score off turnovers wasn't good enough. So a lot goes into that. Like I think the more aggressively you win the ball back, so we can lift our pressure, be more consistent with our tackling and the pressure we put on opposition, we'll be able to force better turnovers and that'll make it easier to score. But it's the offensive piece that we just need to get a bit better at over the pre-season.
Need to protect our defenders a little bit more. Don't want them down there. You guys.
Nah. It's midfielder's game, mate. We just save the game.
So footy's finished for the year and we move into the AFL meat market of trade and free agency period. Would you describe this as Bally's Christmas?
No. The draft's Bally's Christmas. This is just a little entree into that. Yeah, but he does like this time of the year. And it's a really important part of the year because a large part of being a successful club is getting good people and good players in the door. So, we'll make some changes to our list clearly. So this is really important to make sure we get it right.
Yep. And speaking of changes to the list, you mentioned Dave's ability now with his evasiveness and kicking skills. Obviously, we said he's still got a bit left in the tank. Do you reckon there's much currency there to ship him off and get someone
just
a bit younger, maybe?
The price is right. Yeah.
20
well, someone who
20
gets
career
20
votes,
Brownlow.
most ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a 3rd round pick there to be had. So
yeah.
Oh, hey.
Third round, yeah.
So clearly we're all disappointed to see Ches go. He's developing into a really great player of the AFL, but from the club's perspective, we'll be trying to maximise our position in that.
Yeah, of course. I'd never like to see good players walk out the door, and we feel like we drafted Ches with a high pick. We've put 4 years of development into him. He's about to hit his peak, so we'll do the best thing for the club, and that's to get maximum value for him. And hopefully we can turn those picks into good players.
And moving into the draft a bit later in the year, there's a lot of WA talent around. Griff asked me to ask you if we could prioritise tall forwards in particular.
Or tall backs, so you can go forward.
Don't mind, mate. Whatever.
Yeah.
As long as there's no midfielders, I'll make my way in there soon. So,
but they played the curtain raiser for the grand final. Did you see any of that game?
I did watch a little bit of it. I think the thing with the WA talent this year is it's probably a little bit more exposed than talent across the rest of the country. But most of the picks come out of Victoria, with probably a smaller percentage, 20% coming out of WA. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think some of the younger kids in Melbourne have only played 12 games in 2 years, which is it's hard to get the sort of a read on the form. So it's going to be an interesting draft, one that we'll have a good hand in, and over to the recruiters to make sure they get it right.
Shout out Wolsey.
Get to work.
Touched on Josh Carr before being best dressed with the car keys, or worst dressed, whatever we want to decide that was. But there's a lot of talent in the assistant coaches. You got Tendai Mzungu, what else? Joel Corey, Boydie, new acquisition of even Bob Murphy. There's probably another one we've got now. Thanks, Bob. Can't wait to meet you. In your eyes, who's the best player out of them all?
The best player out of them all, it's a good field. Probably Joel Corey. Well, he just, for years in that Geelong midfield, sort of went under the radar because the rest were all off winning Brownlows. Whereas there's a couple of years there where he averaged 30 possessions a game across the whole year. Won best and fairest in that time as well, which is a good indication of the impact you're having on field at your club. So probably him. But there's a lot of talent in our coaching group. But they're really invested in passing that experience onto our all our players, and we're starting to build a really good coaching group. So that should be exciting for all our fans and all our players.
Also mentioned a little sad how I was born the year that you were drafted. So how old are you? Are you now?
40.
40.
Yep.
And your recent party, did any players get an invite to that, or just the boys?
I didn't have a party.
No party?
No, you would have been first on the list if I had a party.
Thanks for that, mate. Doig Medal, predictions? What do you reckon?
I don't like to make predictions. We've had a fair few players that have had pretty good seasons and that can win it. So should be a good count.
All right. Dave, what do you reckon? Are you a chance?
I played, so I'm a chance. As you played, so you're a chance.
Yeah.
I think there's obviously a few players you can throw a bit of a blanket on. Played a lot of the season. Swaggy Darcy in particular really popped a bit this year. Yep. So it'd be really interesting to see how he goes, and more importantly, I think into the future, how he keeps progressing and really becomes a dominant ruckman that we all
big swaggy. After. It's just you love to see it. Too big, too strong, the big fella.
And y'all won't forget again, will you?
I must have forgot apparently. So, geez, he's a funny man. It would be nice to see him, go well.
I'd love to see his acceptance speech if he won anything on the night. Yeah. It would be great, particularly at the back end.
I don't reckon I'd want to see it actually. Now thinking about it, good on him. Good luck to all those playing. I think on the leaderboard every year they only show the top 10. So I reckon I've come 11th. I reckon 5 years in a row now. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yep.
So JL, let's see it. That's the end of our podcast today. How did you go?
It's great to be on. I've heard massive reports about how good it is, and it's lived up to them.
Look at that.
Beautiful. Thanks mate. Appreciate that. We put a lot of time and
effort into who's the best host?
It's like choosing between your two kids, isn't it? Like, just the wisdom and experience on my left, and then the
youthful exuberance. Right. No match for age and treachery, though. Yes.
Jared, Robbo.
Oh no!
Cut that.
No worries. Well, once again, thank you to Crown for hosting us in the Crystal Club. An amazing view of the city and Optus Stadium, obviously, and we've really enjoyed our time up here. And
real big shout out to Crown. Thanks very much. Thank you, Crown.
Griff will never see this again. So.
Yeah, well, I loved it. It was all worth it.
And thank you for all the listeners and viewers who have tuned into our podcast throughout the year. We've really enjoyed bringing a bit of Fremantle flavour to you guys and telling you some behind-the-scenes stories. So hopefully we can get the club to get it back up and going in 2022.
Keep sending in your fan mail and like and subscribe.
See you next year.
Cheers.